Appamada and its programs are supported by your generosity, and your generosity and support makes such a difference. You can find a link for contributions on the website at appamada.org. Thank you.
Friends, thank you all for being here today and sitting, bringing your presence to Zazen. That is such an important support for everyone else who's participating, and for joining for this part of the talk. There was a message from Olivia reminding all of us that it's a good thing to mute ourselves during Zazen to avoid giving distractions to others and to avoid unnecessary motion. Again, to avoid giving distractions to others, and particularly that can be something that really has an impact on a Zoom screen. And I'll say that I imagine for today that most of the distraction has actually come from Peg's computer, which received a bunch of notifications and rang a bunch of little alarm bells during the sitting today. I'm reminded of something that Flint has said in the past, which is that if a cell phone goes off in the next room, we probably should have prevented that, but it can also be treated not as a distraction, but as a way of gaining more traction. I'm just playing with that word about distraction. They as a reminder to wake up. And when I was hearing all those bells going off on Peg's computer, that's what I thought. It's like, oh, I should wake up. So anyway, Olivia, thank you for the reminder about that. And we should all do our best to do what we can to support the sitting of others that we are sharing this psychic space with, that's so unusual and yet so mundane and so easy to get distracted from, and such a treasure when we can be sharing it together. So I want to talk a little bit, and then I want to break into breakout rooms for a little bit of discussion. But what I wanted to focus on is, is a chant that's normally said by the timekeeper in the Zendo toward the end of the service. It comes after the Dharma talk generally. And here's, sorry, my wife just decided to call me, and I could feel it on my wrist here. So no doubt this is bad news if she's calling me, even though she knows I'm leading Zazen. But it'll just have to wait. The timekeeper says, after the Dharma talk, in offering incense, observing silence, and whatever the Dharma talk is about, we extend compassionate care to, and then we name names of people that we know who are hurt or ill or lacking basic necessities, and then we think of all those who are gravely ill, lacking basic necessities, or suffering violence in the world in thought, word, or deed. And we chant together to say, may they be serene through all their suffering, and may they, together with all beings, realize the awakened way. To me, that's a very powerful part of the service, but it's one that goes by awfully fast. And I just want to spend some time with it this morning. We, in the United States, we had the horrible milestone of 500,000 deaths that were acknowledged this week with a ceremony in Washington of candle lighting and so on. And it's good to have an acknowledgement of the grief that comes along with those numbers. And that's just a part of the 2.5 million people who have died from COVID-19 over the last year. And it's been just about a year, I think, since the first reports were being made internationally about the outbreak of the pandemic in areas in China first. But very soon afterwards, it was clearly had already spread worldwide. There's that, and I think we ought to just take the opportunity to reflect upon the impact in our own lives. If you're like me, chances are you don't have any immediate family members or people within your immediate acquaintance who have suffered from the disease. If, on the other hand, you are a frontline worker in a hospital, or you have a relative who is a teacher or a doctor or a nurse, or someone who, because of their work circumstances, has been affected often, or exposed often, and affected directly by the virus, you'll know a lot more about the effects of it than I. I want to say something too about our sangha. I know from being able to talk with people in practice discussion occasionally that there are members of our sangha who are facing life-threatening illness, and there are members, and of course this is true of millions of people worldwide. There are people facing depression and mental illness that can be life-threatening. Millions of people worldwide. There are members of our sangha who are facing addiction with devastating effects on themselves and the people they love and others. And in our culture in America, this is something that leads to the loss of hundreds of lives every day. And it's true worldwide as well. There are people who are facing the loss of important relationships, or the after effects of long-term after effects of painful losses from relationships, from connections that they really care about. And there are people who are facing the loss of capacity through aging and through illness and so on. And what I see in that chant, which, as I say, seems to go by so quickly, but to carry so much, is a chance for us to acknowledge, to grieve, and to share that experience that is part of our humanity. All those losses, all those threats, all those things, how can we hold them? How can we meet them? What is the appropriate way for us to name these things, to respond to all these things, to hold what can be overwhelming in a way that is beneficial, that benefits all beings, that can offer hope, to ourselves, can offer connection for ourselves and others, and support our shared human life. So that's what I would like. I'm going to stop there, and I would like for Nancy to send us all into breakout rooms, let's say groups of 3, and I'd ask you to talk about people and places and other beings in your life that fit with this discussion of extending what are circumstances that you want to respond to with compassionate care. So speak to them, speak the names, and share what you can with the people in your group. So let's say, start with 5 minutes of sitting. Each person has 2 minutes to share. And then groups of 3, let's say 1 minute each for responding to what you've heard in your group. And then let's come back together. Be held by this group. If you have anything like that you would like to share at this time, please raise your hand and Nancy will unmute you. Mary, was that you raising your hand or was it just, no? Okay. I see Kim has his hand raised.
So I felt guilty for feeling so sorry for myself, and for myself because I've made one error after another the last few days, trying to deal with 1,000 different things, and the notifications, bells ringing was I was trying to solve another problem, and Apple told me to turn off my do not disturb, and then solve that problem, and then forgot to turn it back on. But it's been one thing after another. It's been really crazy. And I keep thinking of this wonderful story that Flint told, where he rang the wrong bell in Japan and then made a face, and his teacher told him to that the wrong bell was fine, but the face wasn't. So
yeah, I remember the expression was the bell was okay, the face was extra.
Extra, right?
Yeah. So yeah. It was not like a not okay judgment, but it was extra.
That's a good point. And then I was reading this morning about Dogen's trying to figure out where that line came from. Life is one continuous mistake, and and it's been unbelievable about because I've been double checking and triple checking, and then pow, it just happens. It just happens. And hopefully the next thing I do won't be a mistake.
I want to acknowledge that I am the beneficiary of Kim's generosity in saving me from enormous mistakes that I made on Friday in contacting people about serving as timekeeper, AV monitor for the upcoming intensive, which starts tomorrow. And if you're counting mistakes among those things,
yes,
it's.
Well, I think we kind of got it organized now.
Yeah, I think thank you so much for what you did.
Yeah.
The line from Dogen is not about life. He didn't say life is one continuous mistake. He was asked about being a teacher, and the answer, and what's it like being a teacher?
Well, where I was reading about it, it was about delusions. Our delusions are a mistake.
Okay.
But also, there's a lot of, I'm sure that there's many readings of this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's our big mistake in the thing I was reading was about our delusions.
Right. Well, be gentle with the part that wants to beat you up about having made mistakes. It's trying to be helpful too.
Yeah, and we have this
wrong.
We have this great phrase that an intensive is a manufactured crisis or something.
Right.
And mine started many days ago.
Right. And any attempt to help is a manufactured crisis also. There's gonna be mistakes involved.
Yeah.
And thank you for all your help and all the things that you do so effectively to help. So, any others who would like to share?
Can I add one thing?
Yes, Nancy?
Yeah, talking about the mistake. I remember there was a story that this is in a mindset, like Grow Mindset book. So the person telling a story about a conversation between him and his daughter. So when his daughter get home and he asked her, what did you learn today? Did you make any mistakes? And she said, I was so great. I got like 100 points. Like I did not make any mistakes. So he said, you did not learn anything.
Mm. Mm-hmm. It's true. It's true. Any other namings of feelings that you would like to have held by the group? Olivia, I see your hand.
Well, it sort of follows up. I was in a group with Kim, and I had started, I was in this other group, and the focus, to be honest, was on a 3-day workshop of improving conditions in our country. That's not the title of it, but basically looking at the chaotic political and otherwise picture we have in this country with all the multiple problems. And the core of it really was individuals, how we strive for dominance. We want to be the person on top of it. And we're knocking down the forest continuously, and somebody else is working on us as well. So this dynamic of continual judging, of continual not being mindful is an extremely harmful thing. And we seldom look at it because there are complicated factors to it. But I think that if we don't look at some of that, we cannot solve some of the major problems. You know, we were focusing on global warming, politics, and everything like that, healthcare, immigration, you name it. So it centers on the individual. And this, how do I judge? We don't go 1 second without judging and having it judge back to us in different forms. So I'm not sure. I love looking always for teachings. I don't have a teaching in mind, but I think it's definitely integrated in what we want in compassionate thinking here. So just opening up a little bit. How have I judged? What am I doing really? How am I approaching this with a dominant point of view? What do I want out of it? And then in return, I'm going to be getting it. And this is continuous. We do this all the time. So that is, we were looking at how to look at that. And it starts with looking at this one. So thank you. That was kind of the longer version of what I had to share with Kathy and Kim. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Olivia.
Yeah.
It's so important what you're saying, and you are. I mean, you said you're taking part in a workshop to examine these things, and you know you're expending your energy and resources, I guess, to think about repair. That's what we all need to do. So thank you. I want to acknowledge that. All right. Well, let's have our service.